Okay. Now it's probably live, so.
Well, happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Is this like the beginning of a new week or the continuation of a never-ending week or?
Never ending month. Well, I needed the big guns today.
And I'm going for a lot of water today. Lots of hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. In the official Woman Up Cup. So, okay, I think we're somewhere. I'm not really sure where, but we're somewhere. So all of you folks, okay, yeah, we're here. Okay, let me be sure that my volume doesn't do anything ridiculous. And we should be good. Okay, oh, we got all kinds of people. Good morning, everybody. Wow, got some happy little names I see there, and it's really great. I'm not going to do the romper room thing though. I'm not calling out everybody's names. I'm not doing that.
Thank you. I'm not a fan of that.
Nah, neither am I. Tempted though. I'm very tempted because this is a good group out there. Not that it's not a good group every week, but you know, it's really kind of cool that we've got kind of like a little community here, and I hope you guys really enjoy it because I know we enjoy it.
Yeah, we have a good time with it, and I know that we are making an impact by keeping people informed and learning from each other. So that makes it a lot of fun. So I've had a lot of people reach out, just say they enjoy spending Monday mornings with us. So they learn.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't have enough discussions like this because I'm not going to use the word that everybody uses. We're just, more like Star Trek. We're going where no man's ever gone before. So it's good to have a group to go there together. So, what was that?
Stupid. I said to infinity and beyond. I don't know why.
Okay, so I put out the call for questions, and we got some questions. But Lori has a Muy Poquito update because every Friday, Lori's with all the people in the know and finding out all the hot information. So, Lori, what do you got for us today?
Well, couple updates, and I just will be honest with everyone. When Lisa said, you're going to talk about COVID, right? I'm like, I don't want to talk about COVID.
She actually did it even whinier. It was great. I wish you guys could have seen it. So, no, I don't want to talk about COVID. We're talking about COVID.
2-year-old came out because I'm normally not like that. I'm normally very poised, and yes, we're going to talk about COVID. Oh, okay. We have nothing else in life to talk about, so I guess we'll talk about COVID. So, yes, I was on the CAR town hall meeting last Friday, and a couple of key points. It's an hour-and-a-half meeting. There's a lot of great discussion, but a couple of key points that I just want to share with everybody. Number one, a big topic of discussion was how do we facilitate the PEDS? Okay, we are all logistically trying to figure that out still. However, it was announced that there will be a PED widget through Glide that is released on July 23rd, which is one of the days this week, Thursday. But they didn't describe what it is and what it does. So I have no idea. Other than just like if you're using Glide, we're going to have a PED widget. So maybe it will help us keep track. I don't know, but it sounds cool. We'll talk about it next Monday when it's live and we played with it a little.
Nothing like a live PED widget.
You said it.
Yep.
All right.
I didn't come up with the name.
I'll do a plug for a webinar they're doing just because it's the next item in my notes. August 4th at 1:30, they're doing a webinar through CAR regarding evictions. To hear the latest and greatest. It's not something I've personally kept up with because thankfully in our property management portfolio, we have been blessed that all of our tenants have been paying their rent. So we haven't had to worry about it. But more importantly, it's different from city to city. It can be different from city to city, county to county. And so it's not something that I want to memorize what's going on where, because until it applies to you, you really don't need to know the details. And if you do need the details, then that's when you look for it and direct your clients to an attorney.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So we talked about the BPPP and the fact that it had changed recently. And they just wanted to reiterate again, making it clear that a traditional walk-up open house is prohibited. You may use signage, but be on the lookout for how your signs depict what you're doing. I'm a believer you don't need directional signs if people have an appointment. They already know where they're going. But if you are opting to use signage, it really truly should not say open house because now you're misleading the public. They re-emphasize the fact that the public believes an open house is defined as walking in. And we are not doing that, or we should not be doing that. And if you are, you're in violation of the guidance. But if you are doing it by appointment only, just don't have the dang thing say open house. If you want, they didn't say this is my own thought. Cover up the word open, and if it just says house and arrow is compliant. Just saying.
Or you can get those signs that an agent in area that I'm in has and just says home for sale. And she just has them up just leading to the house with nothing going on, just so people can see this is where the home's for sale.
Yeah.
Without her in there. She does that just so people can drive by and see where the house is.
Perfect. That's the best way to do it. You know, one of the things that changed in the BPP that we didn't talk about last week was the fact that there's now a statement in there regarding someone who for medical reasons cannot wear a mask. And we had a little bit of a discussion on that because we can't turn them away. We don't want to have any ADA violations. We don't want to have any fair housing violations either. Indirectly, that can be a fair housing violation. You have to have an interactive process with them, an interactive discussion to find out what alternatives can be done in order for them to view the house. So whether that's them wearing a face shield or something else, or some other way that you agree that they can safely see the house, something that works for you and your seller and something that works for them. So that's considered a reasonable accommodation. And we understand that term from leasing. We need to have a reasonable accommodation. But in order to get to that, we have to have an interactive conversation to figure out what will work for them, what will work for us. And then ultimately, if they don't come to an agreement with us on what can be done, if we can't find a solution, you do not have to let them in. But you have to have gone through that process first. So I don't know anyone yet who's encountered that. If anyone has, I'd love to hear some feedback on how it went and what type of accommodations you came up with. But as of yet, I haven't heard anything on that. Have you?
Nope, haven't heard of it. I think everybody's doing pretty well. Pam Pedigo says plastic bags work. Are you saying, Pam, that we should be putting plastic bags over the heads of home buyers, potential home buyers? We take it off and say agree to buy the house. Is that what we're doing? Anyhow, one thing I was going to say back to the not so open houses. Yesterday on my Instagram feed, an agent had posted a post about, hey, I'm here at my listing and I'm going to be here from noon to 5 and you can just, contact me there and set up an appointment and I'll let you in. It's great having this open house. And I'm like going, oh, holy mother of God. And she, I went to, get the exact verbiage and it's deleted now. So maybe her broker saw that or somebody saw it and said, no, you might want to take this down because you don't want that living around to haunt you. So, it was good to see that somebody corrected her on what to do, but I don't know. I was a little shocked that was out there.
Yeah.
But,
and adding on to the last part that I was talking about, they're saying if they if the potential buyer won't accept our reasonable accommodation and they possess a potential risk to your health or your client's health, then you can prohibit them from coming in. And lastly on that, the listing agent is no longer having the responsibility to discard the used gloves, masks, and shoe coverings. That's nice that we don't have that burden as the listing agent, but I still think it's appropriate to have, oh, a trash can there. But I guess if you choose not to have to be responsible to dispose of all that, it's no longer the listing agent's responsibility to do that. It would be more of a courtesy at that point. Got it?
Got it.
So let's see. Okay, so then the conversation went to digital registration. And Lisa, you and I had a conversation last week with a friend, a broker friend of ours, who brought up this point last week, actually. And do we want to give a shout out? Or not? Okay. So Jeff Campbell, he posed a question. He says, hey, what if you don't have Wi-Fi access, or your client doesn't have it? Or, there's a whole variety of scenarios where someone might not be able to sign it digitally. So others are having that same challenge. And so that came up. And so Gov Hutchinson ultimately said, and you can tell by his body language and his tone of voice, he's not a fan of this. But when he's looking at the guidance, he's looking for, is it allowed or isn't it? And so, and again, he didn't say that. That's my interpretation of how he was responding. But he ultimately said digital registration on the spot is okay. Because it's still a registration process. You still have to do the PED, you still have to do the cleaning, and you still have to maintain 6 feet of distance. So he said, I'm not sure how you're gonna maintain 6 feet of distance, because someone suggested in the chat, well, can we use an iPad and a stylus that we hand to them and then we clean? He says, yeah, but I don't know how you're going to do the 6 feet of distance. So somebody threw in the chat, just leave it on a table, and then clean it and do what you got to do with it. Somebody else mentioned having the paper on site and then having them leave it on the table. So I ultimately threw in the chat a comment that said, not that I'm advocating for this, but if you have to have a paper one, take a picture of it. That's what you did last week.
Mm-hmm.
They can take a picture of it, so you don't even have to take the picture. They can take a picture of it, send it to you, and at that point I would ask for it via text and email, so I have both. I think that that's a reasonable solution, provided you maintain your 6 feet of distance. So for what that's worth. And he also said it doesn't have to be signed digitally. So the argument of people don't have computers or they don't have, they're not computer savvy. He said, well, you can send it to them or give it to them and they can print it out and sign it. As long as they send it back to you digitally, that fits within the guidelines. So I guess some people were getting hung up on not having them sign it in person, but I think I would steer away from that. Although, I go to the bank and they have me use their pen to sign. I pull out a pen out of my own purse, but other places I've gone to where they have you sign things, they very happily provide you a pen. And I'm thinking, I don't know who's touched that pen. And complete separate note, I heard about that many years ago, that when you go to the doctor's office and you sign in, that those pens are the dirtiest pens ever. And so I always remember that now. People are touching them.
I know. I usually, I'm like, hand sanitizer, please, please, please. But, I was like that anyhow. So.
And then it was suggested in the chat that, if you do have the back-to-back appointments, even if they're, 15 minutes apart or 30 minutes apart, whatever they are, but if there's a potential for people to get there early and now you have people congregating, it was recommended to have some type of marker for the 6 feet of distance, like what we see in the grocery stores and all the other stores. Painter's tape works really well. Someone put in the chat, just mark a little X. It doesn't have to be huge and ugly. So that's an idea. I thought that was a good idea. And And then it was mentioned regarding the pictogram. So the pictogram did change. We mentioned that last week. So make sure that you have the one, it has 4 icons now instead of 6. The question came up about, do we really have to have the pictogram posted 24/7? And I hadn't really given this thought. I just thought that's the easiest way to do it because it has to be up when you have showings. And you don't know when you're going to have showings necessarily. So the answer is no, it doesn't have to be up 24/7. So if your sellers are feeling like they look like, you know, the hazmat team needs to come in because of this warning notice on their door, especially if you printed it in color and it's red, they can remove it, but it needs to be up for showings. And so that could maybe be a reason why you weren't seeing them on some of the showings you were doing. I'm not going to say that's why you didn't see it on all of them, but maybe 1 or 2. They took it down, put it up.
Yeah. I think the 8 houses I showed this weekend, there was 1.
Wow. Okay, no, that's just lazy then. That's just people that don't know. And
yeah, and it's really, you know, you can come up with different ways. Like I put a table outside the front door of my listings, and I have the signs in little plastic sign holders, and so they're there, right there where, you know, the gloves and hand sanitizer is, so they can't miss it. And I think it's kind of nice if you have like a little station right outside, so people have a spot to you know, get their hand sanitizer. Oh, look, there's signs, you know. So
can you leave that table there all the time?
Well, most of the time I'm fortunate there's like a little porch, and you know, we just leave it there, but we bring the signs in at night, you know, if we're not having any showings, they're, you know, they're in. But you know, there's ways you can do it. In fact, the local sign company has the red little pictogram thing. They have it where you can put it on a signpost and just put it out in the front yard, just like not just like an open house sign, but you know, like a sign. So you can just have it on the way to the door. I've only seen one agent do that, but I thought it was ingenious. And you know, they are out there. You know, check with your sign vendor; they might have those available. But yeah, people aren't using them like they should. And yes, Pam says it's shocking how many agents don't comply, saying they don't know. And that kind of leads us to another topic, unless you have anything else going on.
I do. I have a couple more little things. As far as the sign that you're mentioning, you know, the pictogram on a stake, I think I heard that early on and thought that was brilliant until they changed the sign, until they changed the pictogram. And then it's changed like 2 more times since then. So I think they're great. I don't know how expensive they are. Maybe $10. I mean, they shouldn't be hugely expensive. But just know, just because you had a sign laminated or, you know, on, what's it called? I can't think of the material it's made of right now. Corplast.
The corrugated, whatever that stuff is. Yeah, just the sign stuff.
Just because you have it made on that doesn't mean you don't need to invest in a new one if it changes. You need to make sure. You need to make sure you have the current one. Okay, so 2 more points. So it came up that some agents are receiving the PEDs, you know, 24 or more hours in advance. You know, they're trying to schedule the buyer's agent in good faith is trying to schedule an appointment for a couple days later. The requirement is you need to send a PED. They're sending it. It's more than 24 hours old. Question came up, you know, we thought it had to be the same day. So ideally it should be the same day, but it's actually not in the guidance that it has to be the same day. So what was said was it's recommended but not required that it's the same day. However, you need to ask that buyer's agent or the visitors, has anything changed since you completed that form? Because remember, they're attesting to the fact that as of when I'm entering, I don't have any symptoms. I don't know of any contact. So somebody threw in the chat that they're putting that in their showing instructions, as well as in an email follow-up to the buyer's agent confirming the appointment. Okay, you know, you're confirmed, I have your paperwork. However, it's up to you if anything changes with anyone that's entering to notify me. And that's a great risk management piece right there, where you as a listing agent, you're putting those other parties on notice that we're taking this today in good faith. And if anything changes, it's on you to let us know. So that was a really good point. And then lastly, this was towards the end of the session, but question came up: what if the seller has COVID? What if you find out the seller in the household has COVID? What do you do? And we're all going to be facing that at some point, sooner or later. So we're going to start to hear the stories. So according to Gov Hutchinson, he says you need to notify future, and hopefully you don't have any future visitors, but you need to notify past entrants. There's no particular protocol in the guidance. There's no particular form that CAR has created for our use. So the question is, well, how far back do you go? And his response was, act conservatively and go back as far as you can. So because we simply don't know. I mean, we constantly hear this 14 days, this 2 weeks, and then you hear 12 days, and then you hear people are sick for a month. He recommended be conservative in things like this for your protection. Go back as far as you can. It's better to over disclose than under disclose. So that was a good conversation. And I do know one broker I spoke to a couple weeks ago had mentioned that, yes, they had a seller that had come down with it. They immediately took the property off the market or on hold. And I asked, how did you communicate that with people? And we had a very brief discussion on, was that a phone call? Was that email? I was curious. And she wasn't sure because it was the office manager that handled that on their behalf. But we kind of talked it through that, well, email is probably best because you have it in writing that on this date, this time, you notified them. I might be willing to pick up the phone call. I mean, unless I have 100 people to call. But if it's, maybe we're already in escrow and it's maybe only the home inspector and the buyers that might have been subject to this, then I might pick up the phone call at that time just to make sure that I personally let them know. But there's no protocol, so you can decide how you need to do it. And that's it.
And that's our COVID update, folks. Whether Lori likes it or not.
And things are evolving. I mean, I'm happy to report no new forms, but things are evolving, and I think our questions are getting more sophisticated because now, as we've been talking about, it's getting closer to our respective circles. Mm-hmm. I shared with Lisa the other day that my brother sent me a text on Thursday that his on-again, off-again girlfriend was in the hospital with COVID. And she was doing well. She called him and spoke to him, so she was not on a ventilator. He never gets very many details, but my main concern was, when did you last see her? And it had been months. It had been February. So I guess they're off right now. Yeah. And so at least I knew he didn't have anything to worry about. But still, it's getting closer.
Good. Well, I know that there's somebody in our circle, not like immediate circle, but, relatively close, that contracted it, and the person said that they did everything that they were supposed to do, and stuff happens. So all we can do is be safe out there and try our very best to follow the rules. And let's see, we got a question. Alex says, anything new we need to do as a realtor who just wants to go preview for ourselves? Well, you got to remember to do your PED form. You're a visitor too. And that's one thing that I think a lot of agents forget, that they are subject to the same rules as the clients. You have to sign the PED like anybody else and be sure it gets sent over. I had to go do a quick follow-up inspection on a property and, meet the inspector and everything just kind of on the fly. And it was like, wait, we can't go until we get this form signed by everybody, because we were going into the property. So that's the one thing I think, just say, oh, I'm just going to go preview that vacant house. That doesn't exempt you from the fact that you should still be signing that form. And it protects you as well as the seller having a record, or the listing agent having a record of who's coming in the house, because it's, you're saying, you're certifying that you were COVID free to your knowledge when you're walking in. So
it's a good question, Alex. And Lisa's answer is spot on. And it's interesting. The reason I say it's a good question is because I haven't really heard any agents talking about previewing right now. They are showing. And so there isn't anything different that you need to do other than what our protocol is anyway. but I don't know how willing listing agents and sellers are to do previewing right now. I really honestly haven't heard many people talking about going out previewing what we traditionally used to do, you know, to save time for our clients.
And I don't know, I mean,
experience with it.
And what I'm seeing is the market's so hot, you really don't have an opportunity to do that. You know, I mean, the good houses are going in a couple of days, and you know, it's almost kind of makes me question, you know, a lot of the people trying to do the open house. You know, because if you're priced right and you look good, you did your due diligence, you did your professional photography, you did your, you know, your virtual tour, your Matterport, whatever. Your property should be selling themselves. So, you know, and Jeff Moss says preview via video. But let's see. Oh, Pam says ethics complaints. We're starting to get ethics complaints filed. Article 3 and MLS violations. Wow, Pam, if you want to elaborate, start typing. And I'd like to kind of see what's going on, because those are always a good way to find out, you know, what is going on out there, is if, you know, you do hear of you know, what people are seeing and hearing. And so, you know, share away out here. Just leave names out. It's one thing we ask, leave names out. But yes, I agree. Previewing only if absolutely necessary. And the same with the virtual open houses. Really, you know, I mean, we got to think about what we're doing. One of the questions that was submitted to us was, why are agents still doing marketing and flyer drops? And their brokers and their risk managers are saying no, but they're still doing it. So, words of wisdom, Lori?
I think I will respond this way. As a parent, we tell our children what to do and they don't always listen. Some are just defiant, some just don't care, some just, you know, choose to go the other way. So
you don't know they're doing the wrong thing.
Sometimes accidentally doing something because they're not paying attention. You know, there's all sorts of reasons. Some people are just more rule followers than others, and so it's discouraging for sure. I'm glad to hear though that the brokers and compliance officers are telling them not to, and at least, you know, it's that's the message from the company, is this is not allowed. We're always going to have those rogue agents, and that's why we have our code of ethics and our grievance hearings, to be able to remind people and hopefully educate them, and if necessary, punishment when they keep doing it again and again.
And, you know, again, you got to kind of think of the long-term effect on where it is you're dropping things to. I mean, you've got some people that don't care, you know, they're all flicking doorknobs anyhow. They don't care. Oh, there's a flyer on my porch with a goodie attached to it. Yeah, I'll grab it. And then you have somebody else who's probably going to want to call the cops on you because you left something on their porch and they don't know if you have COVID or not, and they think they're going to die. And now they're going to have this lifelong reminder of that agent tried to kill me during the COVID epidemic. And I hate to say that that's like, you know, an overblown possibility, but it could happen.
It could happen.
We all have those, what is it, next door? What's that stuff on the emails? You know, all you need is one neighbor who doesn't like what you did, and your name's going to be mud, and you're not going to be able to get that back.
You'll never get a listing in that neighborhood. Well, I do have some words of wisdom from Gov on dropping off flyers and door knocking. So he says, number one, don't do door knocking. Okay, we all pretty much get that. But the reason why is that is considered initiating an in-person contact. You have no reason to be initiating any in-person contact with strangers right now. So, so then the conversation of dropping off flyers. Well, he says there's nothing clear in the guidelines that say you cannot do that, nor does it say you can. So he says what we have to pull from is we have to look at a similar example and extract from that. So he says the guidance does say do not have marketing materials at the property. So if we can't have marketing materials at the property, why would it seem like we could just go drop off materials? So he's pulling from that. So although it doesn't specifically say, no, you can't drop off flyers, if you can't have them in the house at the listing, why would you think it is okay to have them and hand them out? So he says not a good idea to drop them off. But again, it's not specific in the guidance, but you could tell he was leaning towards don't do it. Don't do it. And again, I mean, that's where the neighborhood is going to make a judgment about you. And one person might think, good for them. They're still working. That's so great that they're able to continue doing their job. Others will look at it and says, how dare you put something that is potentially contaminated on my front porch for me to deal with? And so as the neighbors then talk to each other in person or on the Nextdoor app, yeah, absolutely. They're going to make a decision on you. And if you're a farmer, that could be detrimental to your efforts there. Now, I'll give a caveat on that because I think I may have mentioned last week, either that it was in a phone conversation with someone. I think if you've been a long-term farmer in a neighborhood, it might be reasonable to mail a postcard to your farm saying, hey, I really miss you guys, and I'm not able to drop off any materials to you like my newsletter or whatever it is you provide to them on a regular basis. But I want you to still have access to it. So, email me, send me your email address, text it to me so I can send it to you electronically. So I wouldn't personally go drop those, but I would think that it's okay to mail. I see Lauren asked, are mailings okay? Again, there's nothing in the guidance that says no. And I think if mail was not allowed, we wouldn't be getting mail service at all. Now, interesting thing enough, I don't know if this is happening in other areas, but in my area, I'm not getting the grocery store ads in my mailbox anymore on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I'm getting them in a plastic envelope thrown on my grass.
Oh, I'm not getting that.
Yeah. Initially, my husband just thought, we're getting a weekly newspaper subscription by accident. But when it was the third week in a row, I said, no, those are the weekly ads, which now I don't even open them. I just throw it away. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that we kind of have to look at how how we were doing business and how we will do business. And, I've been vacillating on the mail probably just because mailing's a pain in the, what? And, it's an undertaking that can be, expensive and difficult to do. But if you want to be in contact with your geographic farm, it's really what you kind of have to do. And it's interesting what you said about the door knocking, where that's initiating a face-to-face contact. You would think that would be more of what they're going to hammer home on those virtual open houses with go set the appointment outside and come in. Because technically, if you got that sign out there, you're encouraging face-to-face contact, which again, it'll just probably take somebody filing something like Pam's filling up the comments there. We love it, interesting.
For that, because I was curious what specifically they're doing, because Article 3 is realtors not cooperating with other realtors. So I thought, okay, that wasn't the one I was expecting, and so I'm glad she's sharing with us what is happening. So yeah. I mean, I think in terms of initiating contact, I think when you're door knocking, it's unsolicited by the resident. Whereas if they walk up to the property, it's kind of like Starbucks. To me, doing these virtual registrations outside the property is like placing your mobile order in the parking lot. You look and you're like, the line's too long, I'll just mobile order. And so it's cheating.
That it is.
All right.
Okay. So we also had a question about clear cooperation. Clear cooperation.
All right. Okay.
Go, Lori, because you know what? Again, this is not my area of expertise, but I'm sure I'll chime in somewhere because I always do.
So, and there was no specific question on it, right? So
I think it's just confusion.
Okay.
Confusion.
Yeah. So we're all still learning clear cooperation, and so I have my little poster. Y'all can see it's on CRMLS website. The main things to remember with clear cooperation is the listing agreement requires us to notify the MLS of the listing within the 2 days. Okay, so the new process, the registered status, is not available yet. Okay, so Clear Cooperation took effect May 1st. The registration status is not available yet. Last I heard, it was going to be late July, early August. I haven't heard any update. I'll see if I can find anything. So we don't have that new status to work with right now. So that's one of the 3 layers that we don't have to worry about right now. So in the meantime, you do your SCLM like you normally would if you're not going to be added to the MLS within the 2 days. You can add to the MLS in a coming soon status. Okay, you don't have to, you can go direct to active, but the coming soon status is notifying the MLS of your listing. So you're meeting the requirements if you take the listing and do an SCLM, because it's going to be more than 2 days, or go direct into coming soon, or go direct into active. When it comes to being off the market and utilizing that SCLM, and in the future, the registered status, once you start doing public marketing, and they have a whole description on what public marketing is, and that's going to be your signs, your flyers, your Facebook posts, things of that nature that we normally do when we're marketing a property. Once you do that, you have to be in the coming soon status at least within 1 day. You can go active, but you can go coming soon. Now, the thing to remember about coming soon is your marketing. Well, there's a couple things. You're marketing within the MLS to other agents. It's very confusing on, does it syndicate? Because it seems like it does sort of, but not everywhere. It partially syndicates. I can't answer that one. I'm not sure. There's no rhyme or reason in my opinion. But you can have a sign, you can announce it at broker preview, you can post it on Facebook, but you cannot do any showings. And then the other thing to remember is it can only be in that status for 21 days. It can be less. You can say it's 10 days and put the date like you did on yours, put the date, and we don't know, it could be at midnight as of that date, it goes live.
It goes live.
Yeah, so be ready. Make sure that's the true date. It's my understanding you can extend that date as long as it's within the 21 days. So if you put 10 days and you need 12, you should be able to do it ahead of time, but not the day that it's supposed to go live. And once the 21 days is up, it goes live. And then there's no ever going back into coming soon. There's no, oops, we weren't quite ready, so we're active now. We'll just go back to coming soon. Doesn't work. So hopefully that answers it. I don't know what the exact question is.
Well, Clear Cooperation is still unclear. It was kind of a bizarre rollout that I think they did the best they could with, it's a big ask for a national association to say, you all must do this, and then for all of the MLSs to figure out how they were going to facilitate this within that period of time. It's been a very big undertaking. I think that's probably why a lot of it doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't you roll out the whole thing at the same time instead of, well, we're going to do this and then we're going to do that. No, you're going to do that. I thought I was a little missed. Why are they doing the coming soon thing? Blah, 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 blah. Well, I found out don't knock it till you try it. It actually worked out really well. I was pleased with it. I didn't realize, I kind of thought I had the option to activate it sometime on that day. I didn't. It does it while you're asleep. I woke up and it's like, oh my gosh, we're live. And, didn't stop us. Everything worked out just fine on that. But it's interesting. You can do just about everything but have a showing. And if it's not counting days on market, which was my concern, because I'm like, this used to count as days on market if you did any kind of marketing. But then with the new rules and the Clear Cooperation, now we can do a coming soon and do everything but show it, and it doesn't count for days on market. So based on that, I was like, okay, I didn't like it, but what's not to like now? And, you just kind of have to be ready. You have to have your dates down and know when you're going to have photo delivery and know when, you're going to be ready for everything to go live. But yeah, I don't know if I would use the registered situation now that we have the coming soon. But, it's something that is very still kind of murky. And maybe, like we said before, we can get one of our friends from CRMLS to come join us one day.
That'd be nice. Yeah, the registered status will ultimately, what I understand is will ultimately replace the SELM, but that's up to the MLS. And I know early on that's what they were saying was they were hoping would happen, and it's a collaborative discussion between CRMLS and CAR, because CRMLS has their own rules, as we know, and then CAR has the forms, and so that process has to match on both sides. And on the CAR side, it has to meet the code of ethics. So at that meeting on Friday, they were talking about, because somebody had the question, well, why in the new listing agreement is the coming soon section there? And we can put a date of when we can begin marketing. So why do we still need the SELM? And it's a good question. I had a similar question earlier in the week. People are confused because it looks like on the new listing agreement, well, why would we need the SELM if the seller's saying you can begin marketing on this future date? Well, the answer is because the MLS is not ready for us to do that. They still require the SELM. So for now, we're using the SELM. When the registered status takes effect, we may or may not still be using the SELM. Hopefully not, but we don't know yet. And so, for now, we just carry on. And then when the new status is available, then we'll find out, does that change how we practice? And, best case scenario, we drop a form.
Well, and Jeff Campbell's saying CRMLS does not want us to send in an SELM anymore.
I heard that too. But I think there's still a mechanism to report it. I thought you were still doing the upload, so I don't know. I haven't entered one, so I don't know what's happening. Maybe Jeff.
Sure. Yeah,
maybe an upload. I know you used to send it to them, and then it became an upload for a long time, and I don't know what the status is now.
Unclear cooperation.
Stay tuned.
Yes. Speaking of unclear.
Oh, okay.
Something that we discussed a little bit before, Lori and I came up with our own question, because it seems to be coming up quite a bit, and that's the matter of loan forbearance. Whether it is student loan forbearance, mortgage loan forbearance. I didn't really realize you can do it on car loans. And how is this affecting people's ability to purchase? And the thing that I find very interesting, and I will not go into politics or policy or anything like that right now. However, we were all told stay home back in March. And guess what? You don't have to pay your mortgage. You don't have to pay your student loans. The student loans automatically were given forbearance, whether you asked for it or not. Lori has student loan situation in her family. They've all got notified that there was forbearance. Both of my sons were like, hey, I don't have to pay my loans anymore. I didn't even ask, and I don't have to pay my loans for whatever period of time. But a lot of people said, oh, wow, yeah, I'm not sure how my job's going to be. This could be a problem. All this COVID could be a problem. And, oh, I don't have to pay my mortgage. Well, wow, I'm finding out whether I'm going to get laid off or furloughed at work. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say, I want this forbearance. And people did that with cars. People did that with their homes. Then we found out what the rules were, kind of like the PPP loans and the EIDL loans, which again, I feel we were told, don't worry, you're going to have money, stay home. Well, we all kind of saw how that worked because, well, that's why we have the Nerdy Realtor Group in the first place, because nobody knew what the heck was going on. So there's this changing of the rules when it's convenient for the people that are making the rules. And we're seeing this now with the mortgages that is coming up and biting people. The car loans are coming up and biting people. And nobody knew what the ramifications were going to be when they did this, but now we're finding out that you are going to be hit with maybe a credit issue, your mortgage company, who knows, they're already automatically extending forbearances too. one of my clients that had a loan forbearance. We thought it was okay for her to do it, and it turned out that probably wasn't the wisest thing because it did affect her credit. But we sold her house, paid off the loan, and she got notified by, oops, she got notified by her loan servicer that she was automatically being extended. And she's like, well, number one, they don't even know that my loan's paid off. And I had to kind of explain that's how these things work. But it was just odd that they're like, oh, no reason for you to make your payments. Well, what if you didn't realize that in 6 months from now, something happens and you want to, go sell your house and buy a new one? Now you have 6 months of not making payments on your loan. How is that going to affect you? And how do you know how that's going to affect you? So I think that's something that we need to be aware of when we're talking with our clients, especially if you're working with buyers that have done some sort of a forbearance, whether it's an auto loan. I don't think the student loan situation, I don't think that that's going to affect it because that was involuntary. Everybody had that happen. But if you ask for help, it could come back and bite you. So just, be on the lookout for that when you have buyers you're working with, or if somebody's saying, hey, I'm still furloughed. I think I'm going to do a forbearance, encourage them to contact their loan servicer and find out what the ramifications are going to be and how that could affect them in the future. And maybe saving for 3 months of not making your mortgage payments just because you can isn't such a good idea because of what it could do to you in the future. And again, we're, going where no man has gone before, and we don't know what these are, but people just need to be aware of that.
Yeah, that's good advice. I think with a lot of these types of programs, when announcements are made, the rules haven't been defined. It's here's this grand idea. We kind of have an idea of what we want it to look like, but we haven't figured out how to fully execute it. And, if you're an office manager or a broker, you have to be mindful of that in things that you announce. Because one of the things that I always struggled with over the years was an announcement of an office moving, an office getting remodeled, and anything that you tell an agent to excite them, you better have the details to back it up because they are going to hound you every single day until it happens. And if it doesn't happen, or if it looks different than the picture you originally painted, then it's a problem for those agents. And I think people in general, but I especially noticed it in the real estate space more so than in a previous industry I was in. So I think it's good practice just for us as brokers and maybe office managers, team leaders, a whole variety of different roles that, we really need to think the logistics through as best we can in order to fully educate. So that way we don't say things like the unclear, clear cooperation.
Yes, we've had a lot of muddy things happen this year, and again, this year has been extremely weird. And, and people are trying to come up with ways to bribe us to stay home. And, we were all happy when we thought we were going to get money for sitting at home, but that didn't quite work out like we wanted. And we have a remark in here from Catherine. What happened to EDD PUA funds? Who's received them after getting approved or receiving award letters? I didn't file because I was working. I had a conversation with a friend who said, aren't you going to file? Aren't you going to file, Lisa, and get the unemployment? And I'm like, well, I've got a house in escrow right now and I'm working. And she's like, well, yeah, but we're not collecting money right now. And I said, a year ago, when you were in escrow, you weren't collecting any money until that house closed. So what's any different today than it was a year ago? Do we really need unemployment? Again, it's like somebody's saying, hey, we're going to give you, $600 a week up until the end of July. Stay at home, you're going to get paid, you're going to get this money. And, there's no free lunch. At what point, if you close an escrow, who's to say that they're not going to come back looking for that money when, you have to have your books checked, because that's the crazy thing. We're just now finding the rules out for the PPP program, that, you know, how to file for the loan forgiveness. And it's like, okay, again, this is clear as mud. The EIDL, people got money with no paperwork. I mean, we had money pop into our corporate account. And did you ever receive any notice from anybody?
Yeah, I did. And it's interesting because on that CAR meeting, one of the other attorneys that we don't hear from too often, his name is Brian, he talked about this, and CAR has some updated resources on this regarding the PPP, EIDL, and the PUA. And he did mention, you know, there was the grant program that was $1,000. That's a grant, so that's not paid back. If what I wrote down was the loan portion is not forgivable. So in the case of what we received for our corporation, it was a loan. I signed loan docs for it.
Mm-hmm.
But some people got it where they didn't sign anything. So that very well could be a grant. Don't know for sure. You will want to check with some of their resources. They've really been staying on top of it. And one of the things that when that meeting first started, Joel Singer, the CEO of CAR, came on and he said, you know, we're trying to get a meeting with the EDD because there's a lot of members with questions on the unemployment. And he said, we're trying really hard. They're so hard to get a hold of, but we're trying to get a meeting with them. And at the end of that hour-and-a-half meeting, he came back on and he said, we just heard from them. We have a meeting that will be scheduled in the next few weeks. So, you know, they have a lot of questions they've been receiving from our members, and they want to be able to get those answers for them. Apparently, I didn't apply for the PUA either, the unemployment. So I haven't worried too much about how that works. But apparently they're now EDD is now coming back to people saying you need to do this certification for some of those early weeks. And certification, I guess you have to do a certification or you have to pay it back. And his recommendation was to hold off on doing that certification until we have more answers. Apparently that certification is not due. I didn't write it down, but it's either that certification is either due the end of August or the end of October. And I'm thinking it was October. I didn't write it down, but I'm going off memory. And he said, we don't know yet. So don't fill it out now. They're not requiring it today. So don't fill it out today, because there are things like, well, what if you got a PPP loan or PPP funds? How does that play into it? Do I have to, if I wasn't getting payroll, how do I now say, well, I had PPP? That's supposed to be for payroll. So he says, just kind of wait for the dust to settle a little bit, and hopefully they'll have that meeting within the next week or two and be able to offer the members more guidance. And that won't be something that I would feel comfortable discussing, you know, on our Monday sessions, but I'm happy to put any links that we find related to it. I'm just not versed in it enough to be able to offer any additional advice other than just, you know, what I wrote down from what I interpreted from what they said.
Well, and maybe we can track this fellow down from CAR and maybe do one of those, you know, unplugged on a Thursday afternoon. We haven't done any of those in a while. So, you know, maybe we can get an update, because it is really confusing. I know when I sign on to my bank just to check things out, you know, there's always, you know, this is this, and do you need help, you know, filling out your loan or your forgiveness paperwork? And I'm just going to look at it. And it's like, okay, well, we have 8 weeks, and then we have this many weeks, and you could do this or you could do that. But you know, I'm just literally going, I have no idea what they're talking about. So I'm just going to look.
Adventure at this point.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, okay, it's just sitting over there. So that's all good. But and let's see, there was one other question that came up regarding virtual tours. Now, we're not really the marketing place over here. Granted, I like to play graphic artist with the best of them, and I do like my social media. But you know, this is more the place for compliance, technical, that kind of stuff. However, if you do want assistance on virtual open houses, I am going to give a plug to one of my favorite people out there. I'm honored that I can say she's a friend, but she is the gal, and it's Katie Lance. And she has, I don't know if this is backwards for you guys. I'm sure it probably is. It says the Virtual Open House Handbook. You can go to Katie Lance on Facebook, or her website. She runs a really good social media academy. And I've been a member for a couple of years because it's worth getting the inside tips and everything. Right now she's doing like a 30-day challenge. We're on day 20 and I got to get caught up because I haven't been doing everything like I should. But it really, if you need some help on the social media front, and you know, all of the good things come to the people that are willing to spend $1, you know, and buy the books, sign up for the 30-day challenge. If you're not comfortable doing videos, if you're not comfortable with posts, and you don't think you have good content, or you're just like, content, what do you mean I got to come up with content? She's got great information for making you think outside the box a little bit, getting yourself more comfortable on video. You know, this is what we look like. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not so good. Yeah, sometimes I just kind of wish I wouldn't even know. I just talk to a little green light. But, you know, you just kind of have to get comfortable with who you are. I think that for the virtual open house, we have ideas, but you know what? Be yourself out there. Come up with your own stuff. You know, who said let's do Monday morning coffee and compliance? We just decided we're going to do this. And you can do the same thing with your virtual open houses. Just promote it. Be yourself. Get on Facebook Live. We do this on a Zoom to Facebook Live. You don't have to pay for Zoom to be able to do it, but it's worth it to be able to have a platform where the two of us can sit here and chat with you guys and, you know, be able to see the comments. Maybe sometime we'll try to figure out a way to make it a little bit more interactive. Maybe bring some of you over to the Zoom, maybe. I don't know. We can give it a try. But yeah, you know, there's some people in the comments here. She's got great info. Katie Lance is definitely the person to go to for content creation, how to make yourself more comfortable, how to do the virtual open house handbook. I know she charges for this, but since I'm an Academy member, I get it for part of my Academy membership. And it's just, you know, this is the marketing we may be doing for a while, you know, having to get our social sphere of influence folks and our geographic farm people over to the electronic where we can be in better touch with them. Is this going to be easy? No. But we could be doing this for quite some time. I mean, it doesn't sound like we're loosening up, and if we're doing anything, we're tightening up. And, you know, a lot of things are having to go virtual. In fact, I've got my cool little Woman Up cup here. It's Daniel Wu calls them Woman Cup, but I'll call it Woman Up Cup. And, you know, I think there's two people here that were both wave makers, Woman Up wave makers again. I think that would be yours truly and Lori. I think you're over there. I'm not sure. You know, I'm like trying to look at the screen because right here we're up and down, and over here we're vertical or horizontal. So I don't know. However, Woman Up is going virtual this year too. So if you'd like more information on that, look up one of us because we're wave makers, and it's a great place. It's going to be interesting because there's a magic feel when we're all together in the room at the conference. I hope we're going to find a way to translate that magic online. I think that we are seeing that can happen, which is really cool. But you know, just another virtual event that's, you know, going to be a special one. So let's see, has it been a bit challenging to get more clients for other agents based on your experience? You know, I've been, in my personal experience, and it'd be great to hear what everybody has to say, you know, because a lot of us are like super busy. My repeat and referral client base and second generation clients, now that I'm old and I have adult children, it's paying off now. And I'm not even, you know, having to really worry about, you know, I'm like, oh my God, I got to do this mailer, I got to do this and that. My pipeline trusts me. My social sphere of influence that I've nurtured for well over 25 years trusts me. They're sending their kids to me. They're, you know, I'm doing projects for family members, professionals that I'm working with. I think reaching out in that aspect could really pay off for getting more business, because, you know, finding those random people that are walking around looking for a realtor, I think it's a little tougher, but I think, you know, like in Barbara saying she's busier than she's ever been, Jeff saying lean into your SOI. I couldn't agree more, because my business is, you know, bouncing off the walls right now. And it's all based off of past clients and referral business. So really go out there and work that.
We have to remember that we are a people business, you know, and so this has been a beautiful opportunity for us to reach out to people we haven't talked to in a while, to just check in on them, see how they are. And everybody that owns a home is interested in how is COVID impacting the housing market. And so it's a perfect opportunity to just reconnect with people from the past. Number one, to find out how they're doing. And then number two, to educate them on the market and remind them that you're there for them just as you always have been. So, you know, everyone that I talk to as well, it's all about re-engaging with those people they already have in their lives, whether it's close by or distant. We just have to remember that. And we don't have to really go out and do a ton of marketing for strangers, because people want to work with someone they trust, especially right now. They want that personal connection to know that you're going to take care of them. You're going to keep them healthy. So I think that that's great advice, to connect with those people. That's the simplest thing to do. And quite honestly, I think it's the most fulfilling.
It is. And also too, to use social media to your advantage. Use that to keep in touch with people, because a lot of times it's like, oh yeah, I know I got to write a note card, you know, like I got a stack of cards this big back at the office for birthdays and this and that. I'm horrible at that stuff, but I'll always just hop on to social media, have a little message conversation. People are seeing me, I'm seeing them, and just interacting. And that's just an easy way, just so people see you. Just be out there, put yourself out there, and work the people that already know how good of an agent you are.
Agreed.
Okay, well, it's 11:02. Anything else?
I don't have anything else. This has been a good discussion.
Yeah, considering we didn't have any idea what we were going to talk about.
Submitting questions is very helpful. So thank you that did that, and thank you for those who engaged. We had a lot of comments in the post. So, you know, as I keep saying, it's about learning together. And so, you know, I'm happy to provide content and information, guidance from my past experience and my current involvements. That brings me joy to be a resource to people. But, you know, it depends on everybody for us to truly learn together. So thank you.
Just because we're not all at the same company doesn't mean we're not all in this together. And, you know, this is a great bunch of people. We've had a, you know, great group here through, you know, most of the Facebook Live, which thank you all for spending your Monday morning with us. And if there's anything that you really want us to talk about specific, maybe something that we haven't covered here, just, you know, shoot us a message, put it on the page, and invite your friends. The more the merrier. So you guys all have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and be safe. Above all, just be safe. You can't wash your hands too many times.
Right.
You can use hand sanitizer too many times. I found that out. It's not pleasant. It really isn't. That's when you're begging to have your hands washed. It kind of cakes up and it gets gross. But anyhow, on that note, you guys have a good day, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, friends.
Okay, bye.